Jeff Demers, ambassador for the lovely Ponty, and of course, he is the CEO of the Infinite Voice Project. I am Vivian Chauvet. I'm internationally known as an Arcturian hybrid avatar, and I'm also the CEO of the Infinite Healing from the Stars. But today we are excited to welcome for the first time the lovely and very talented Gwen Farrell. But before we dive into absolutely an amazing exploration about her background, books, experience firsthand. Allow me to officially introduce you to Gwen today. And Gwen and I met last year at the International UFO Congress in Phoenix, Arizona. We have a beautiful talk, and I will remember her books. I remember her presence. It is a joy to have Gwen today. So let's explore. Gwen is a certified hypnotherapist and regression therapist specialized in experiencer therapy, a UFO investigator consultant, and CE5 researcher who has worked with hundreds of individuals who've experienced contact with non human intelligence and other anomalous events during private sessions. I want to dive into that. Groups, workshop around the world. It's been also at conference for over the 14 years. So we're in for a treat, everyone. So tune in and you want to know more about Gwen. She facilitates online support groups for experiencers, from all over the world, and also is a past MUFON field investigator and director of MUFON's Experiences Resource Team, director of the Organization for Paranormal Understanding and Support, known as OPUS, Experiences Support Team, the Academy of Clinic Close Encounter Therapists, and the board and editors of the Journal of Adoption Research, known as JAR. She's, of course, the author of numerous articles and books in the field of human ET contact, including Forbidden Questions, a guide to human ET contact, which, of course, is available on Amazon, and we'll talk about that as well. Gwen, welcome.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Oh, it's a pleasure to have you. And when I reached out to you, we were so excited that you have accepted our invitation today. Obviously, you have such an exhaustive level of first-hand experience with the experiencers, learning from them, researcher, you're involved in many organizations. Gwen, when does it all start for you? For those who are discovering your work and who you are, how does it all start for you?
Well, I believe it has been really a lifelong experience. I do believe that I am an experiencer and contactee my long life. But I didn't discover that until I was quite a bit older in life, which happens with a lot of experiencers. And so that I was a field investigator at MUFON because I've always been interested in the stars, and I've always felt that I had a connection with the stars and beings that were up there, even though I didn't really know or understand what it was. So I joined MUFON as a field investigator, did that for about 3 years. At the time, I was also a certified hypnotherapist. I had a hypnotherapy practice in Phoenix where I worked with people who had general needs, such as wanting to lose weight, stop smoking, work on PTSD, and behavioral issues. But when I became involved in this field, I found out that there was a need for qualified therapists to work with experiencers who could talk to them and they could help them, because so often experiencers don't have anyone that they can share with. So I decided to switch my therapy practice over to just working with experiencers. And I have been doing that for about 14 years now.
Incredible. Let's dive into that experience. So, the last 14 years, working firsthand with experiencers, giving them a support system, maybe helping them to understand their own experience. So, what traits or maybe commonalities among experiences that you may have noticed in your over the
Mhm.
last 14 years?
There is a huge variety of experiences among this whole contact phenomenon. It's huge. However, there are strong similarities among each of them. Everyone is an individual. They have an individual soul, an individual human brain, and an individual way of processing the experiences that they have. So no two are going to be exactly alike, but there are similarities. And some of the similarities that a lot of people have is they have what they might call an abduction experience. An abduction experience would be where you are removed against your will from your home or another location. You are taken to what is usually an alien location, and there may be all kinds of things that you experience in those locations. So abductions are quite common. Other things that people experience is what we might call psychic or spiritual contact. This would be where they are contacted by otherworldly beings, either just naturally, but frequently when they're in a state of prayer or meditation, and they are open to that kind of energy that comes in. So that's another type of contact that people have. People have positive contact and negative contact, and it doesn't matter what it is. In this area, we consider it all legitimate, valid contact because as a therapist, I work with people. I work with the people. I'm not an investigator anymore, so I don't really care about the contact as much. It's about the people. So all of these things are considered to be legitimate.
Have you ever cataloged the types of beings that these people talk about?
I have never personally done a whole book of it. I do mention it in the addendum in my book that we'll talk about a little bit later. And of course, I have listed them for in articles and for when I've done talks and things. But I understand over all of the researchers that I've worked with over the years that there can be as many as 300 different types of otherworldly beings who have been reported. And this would be since the beginning of recorded time. So we're talking about way back in the ancient times. The ones that I know and have most of my reports are the typical types, which would be grays, various types of grays. Apparently there are different races and groups of gray beings. There would be different types of reptoids or reptilians. Some good, some bad, but they have a similarity as well in the way that they function, in the way that they look. There are what are called tall whites, which have been seen here in this country and have been written about, which are an amazing group that apparently are still active here. There are many other kinds that people talk about. There are shadow people. There are little dwarfs. There are mantids, different kinds of mantids or insectoid beings. There are hybrid type beings, which are a whole different interesting subject. There's just about everything that you can think of. Then there are non-human-like beings like orbs. Many people talk about orbs that they see and they receive information from, and different kinds of things that are like orbs. So there's quite a bit out there that are reported.
Incredible. And one of the things that you said earlier, Gwen, I really relate to that. It's all about the people. You validate the experience.
Mhm.
Because too often, one tendency I've seen personally based on my observation and experience, it's about more qualifying the physical contact. If it's not a physical contactee or
Right.
experiencers, it's kind of dismissed. But in your experience, like you mentioned, all of the contact, whether it's more etheric, psychic, emotional, physical, and all the above, they're all valid. There are contact.
Yes, we do consider those. And there are even things that are considered contact that you don't even touch someone. For instance, if an individual sees a light in the sky, which they think might be an otherworldly craft of some kind, many times people have information they get from that, or they will have a very strong connection. It may just be a light in the sky. It doesn't land, but they have a very strong connection, or they may actually get downloads of information at some point or see them in their dreams. We also consider that contact because that is a real experience that that person has.
Oh, absolutely. I'm with you 100%. In fact, I always believe in synchronicity. Today we're Sunday, May 21st. We have you as a guest. 2 days ago, I was in a parking lot having dinner with a friend. And as we come out of the parking lot, my friend saw first the outline of what looks like a craft, and it was followed by both of us physically seeing an orb, a very powerful sphere of pure light, like flying over our head, so to speak, flashing in a blink of an eye, it disappeared. And we both were there to witness it. So we know that at the time there was a contact made. And in our case, Gwen, it was followed by three-dimensional portal opening, and I saw three beings. They were more interdimensional in that case, coming out of the portal and really being focused on us. They were very concentrated on us. And the message I received is, we're interested in what you are talking about and the energy that you're generating. So that was just my recent experience. And here you are saying there's a form of contact and it's just as valid. I love this.
Yeah, it is.
It really is. So, Jeff, do you have a question for our guest?
Yeah, I do. Do you have contactees that are repeatedly being contacted?
Yes, we do. It's fairly common. Many people begin having contact when they're children. They may have children or contact when they're children for a few years. Sometimes that tends to drop off when they get to be in their teenage years. That could be because they're just busy doing a lot of other things, or for some reason it drops off. And then it may recur as they become adults.
Well, that sounds familiar.
Yeah, frequently people do have contact. Many of the people who are in my groups have almost constant contact.
Interesting.
And that's a good point, because if you have a continuous form of contact, can it be possibility that they may be a starseed of those groups, or their point of contact, or there's some soul contract behind it? Do you have any details about that, for example?
I think it could be any of those. We do understand from the many, many people who have told me and my own personal experience that the soul contracts are sometimes called pre-life agreements. Same thing. Those are fairly common as well. Not everyone has them, but many people do. And those will, as we understand that process, will tend to tie you together with individuals in certain lives. They may, bring you into contact with human beings in this life. They may introduce you to a spouse here, someone you can be close to, someone you can grow with. They may introduce you to teachers who can be to help you along your path. So absolutely, that could be hybrids also. It could be something like that too. Or they could simply be beings from somewhere else, either other planets or coming from other interdimensional spheres.
Yeah. Another question is: have you ever heard of we'll say an ET race contacting people on Earth to do a certain function, or to help them spread the word about their own race?
Yes, we do. That's another one of the, I have a long list of what we call symptoms of contact or characteristics of contactees. And that's one of the big ones. Many people who believe they have contact experiences also believe that they have been given missions. And this might be part of a pre-life agreement with them, that they're here for a reason. And this is one of the most interesting things about this phenomenon is that somebody may go on in what we consider a normal life, not have any contact, not think that there's anything unique about them. And they're just a normal person working a normal job, or maybe they're unhappy, they're in a job they don't like, or they're ill or things like that, and they're just not happy. They can have a contact experience, which they find to be healing in some way, and they can totally turn around. They receive images, they can turn around. It's very similar to what some people talk about when they have near-death experiences. They sometimes feel that they come back with a mission. This is very common. Many people in this field have missions. Yeah, and they can be many things. It can be to tell the whole world about contact, or it can be to go to one person or to their family. It's just they're usually tend to be rather unique in that. But yes, they do.
That's another good point, Gwen. I hear that a lot too with starseeds or people who have been in contact or they are in continuous form of communication, that there is a purpose. Well, everything has a great purpose, and I love the way you interweave that. So again, it's bring validation to everyone to have your own information, your own contact. It is either pre-life agreements, there's a purpose, understanding what it is. I have a question for you, Gwen, from Mike. Can I read a question for you?
Sure.
Okay, Mike is asking, Gwen, have you been contacted yourself? And if so, by what civilization?
I have been contacted, I believe, since I was born. Since possibly before I was born. But as I mentioned earlier, I didn't learn about it. I didn't understand it until I was quite older in life. And as I said, that tends to happen. But when that happened, but I always knew something was different about me. I was a normal kid. I loved school. I had friends. I had a loving family. But I always knew there was something that wasn't quite right. Like I had a home down here, but I had a home somewhere else too. And I always felt a very strong connection to what I thought was up there, something up in the stars. I never worried about it. I was never frightened of it. I just always felt loved. And I always felt, well, if I ever need to know, I'll know about it. So what I found out eventually after doing some personal work, first having it sort of, I kind of got poked by the beings and said, okay, it's time to wake up. Then I began to do some personal work here. But the beings that I have been in contact with were a species of grays. I don't know exactly which ones, because I understand that there are many different races, gray races out there.
Thousands of them.
Yeah.
Thousands of them.
Yes. So, but that's what mine was. And that's what I believe where I am from. I'm part of this world, but I'm from somewhere else too. So yes, it would be the grays, one of the gray races.
Incredible. Gwen, can I share with you the vision I received to my third eye as you were talking about your experience?
Sure.
Okay, thank you. I always ask permission first, but I can't help it. I get visions sometimes as they are appropriate. But when you were talking about this, the moment what I saw is you are this like galactic therapist for many civilizations. So I saw you like, with pen and paper, like, taking notes like a therapist would, well, on the intergalactic level, interacting with many, many different star system, different intergalactic groups, including variation of the grays within that group. And the word gray, it's a big umbrella. And it's like you've been doing this work at a different level where you are like this recognized galactic therapist. And so in this lifetime, your soul said, okay, I'm going to bridge that work for those who are here on this earth to create a bridge of understanding and decoding and communications with the intergalactic communities to bring them for those who have already contract or they're part of those groups of coming back, so in the form of star seeds, contactees, point of contact, experiences, and so forth. But that's the vision I received in my third eye. Did that resonate with you?
Well, it absolutely does. I don't know why, but as you can imagine, after doing all this work, I've wondered many times about how did I get to this place, although I have always felt that I've been guided. That I guess that's why I've always felt so comfortable. I've never been fearful. I've always just said, well, I leave my life in my family's hands, and it always worked out that way. So, yeah, I think that would be right. I do believe that um, that if we are open to our paths, we can find paths here, and many of them begin many years, many lives in the past for us. So, yeah, thank you. I appreciate that.
Oh, you're most welcome. I'm happy you're receptive because it is meant for you. That's why I asked you if I can share it. It came very clearly. Gwen, I want to explore from a researcher and investigator because you were involved with MUFON for
Mhm.
a time. So, what can you share about that time for you as a researcher with them and all the groups you were involved with?
I very much enjoyed my work with MUFON as a field investigator. I was very excited to do it, but I was already a therapist, as I mentioned, a hypnotherapist, and I was used to working on not so much of a left-brain level or a nuts and bolts level. I was used to working with people on more of a spiritual or psychological level. So I did enjoy about the 3 years that I had with MUFON. I learned a lot. I learned a lot about contact. But at that time, MUFON was not working with contactees. They didn't have anything at that time. So after about 3 years of it, I decided I really don't think I want to do nuts and bolts anymore. I don't think it was a bad thing. It was just not for me. And I heard a speaker who was talking about we need help. We need therapists to work with experiencers. And that was it. And I reached out to her and she helped me with training. And I spent about a year working with her and another very well-known therapist in this area. And I learned how to be an experiencer therapist on top of that was. So from then on, I have worked primarily with experiencers. I have not been a nuts and bolts field investigator. And that's kind of what has brought me where I am today. I do have an understanding of how MUFON works and how their investigators work, and I think that they have done a lot of really good work over the years. However, it's just not for me, and I think it's not for everyone. It's not. They're not helpful to everyone. Who needs that? But that was my MUFON. I took MUFON training, and I was a certified field investigator for, as I said, about 3 years. So.
When you have these experiencers and they tell you everything, do you find a correlation between other experiencers experiencing the same type of being?
Absolutely. Yeah, as I think I kind of mentioned before, is that there are incredible similarities. You have millions of people who are having experiences, and no two are exactly alike, but there are similarities. And this is something that we find as researchers and all the people I've worked with over the years. So I could write and I can talk about, the different types of contact modalities and things that we are primarily are being reported to us. So yes, we do. But again, no two people are alike. And so this is the joy and the challenge of being a therapist and working with experiencers, because there's always going to be a little difference. It is very, very helpful to be as educated as you can, to know as much as you can about the field, which is one reason I was happy to be in MUFON and to be an investigator for a while and to do research, because it really gave me that background. So then when I sit down as a therapist, I know what people are talking about.
Mm-hmm. What is the earliest experiencer you had? Was it like in the 50s, 60s, 70s? Do they recall that far back?
Yeah, I didn't start until much later. I didn't become a MUFON field investigator
No. It's the experiencers. How far
age,
back?
like their age or?
Yeah.
Okay. I do not work with children. And so I don't work with anyone who's under the age of 18. I would if I have permission from their parents and if the parents are willing to sit in on the sessions. So they would all be adults. So, I mean, it has been every adult age that you can, from 21 or 20 all the way up to people who are in their 80s.
Wow. So the people in the 80s have experiencers have had experiences when they were younger? or
Some
just
of them have.
recently?
Some of them have had experiences when they were children who may have continued for a while and then stopped for a while and then started up again. Some of them are brand new experiencers.
That's the point I was getting at, right?
This is what
That's what I wanted
is
to know.
amazing.
Yeah,
Absolutely. It could, they didn't, maybe they didn't, I didn't have experience till I was in my early 50s. I mean, I had experiences, but I didn't understand them till
right.
I was in my early 50s. Many people will come to me, probably the people who are a little bit mature in age will be remembering earlier experiences that they've had. But many of them will come and they don't know what's going on. They are as confused as anybody else who's had these kind of experiences. They don't know. And, then they want us to understand. Yeah. And many people in my groups are a little bit older.
Have any of your experiencers ever been harmonized with an ET?
I'm not sure that I understand that term. Can you explain it to me?
Has okay when an ET comes and you say that you interface with them on a level that they will um, make you understand
Right.
more of what's going on. It's like a heterodyning effect with an
Right.
ET. Has any of
Sure.
them ever experienced that before? Have they
Oh,
ever
yes.
even told you that they have?
Yes, absolutely. Many people go through that experiences. That's another one of those characteristics that we have of that people talk about. They do. Most people
It's
have
a life-changing event, really, for
it can
most
be.
people.
Yes, it can be a life-changing event. It can change them. It can bring out their missions. It can change
Mhm.
their path in life. Sometimes, unfortunately, it can be traumatizing and
Right.
frightening. And that's when they are going to want to have some help to help them get around it. Sometimes it starts that way, and a few years later or a little while later, then it completely changes. So yes, we do get that. People have telepathic communication when the being is right there in their
Right.
presence, or they have what we consider downloaded information, which is also maybe some kind of telepathy. Some people feel that they are raised to a frequency level of the being, because frequency is something that we really are talking about these days in the realm of consciousness. So vibration, frequency levels. And so many will say, yes, I was raised to their level in order to be able to communicate with them.
Correct.
That's a powerful point. I am thrilled that you're mentioning that, Gwen, about frequencies and vibration. And there is, after time, a need to be reattuned in order to communicate with civilization or intelligence. They have reached another level of enlightenment or spiritual understanding or level of evolution. So I feel like this is so much more um, encompassing to bring the frequencies. And I know I hear that also in my practice where they say, oh, I needed to be attuned or they did something to help me balance myself so I can be at a certain level in order to communicate. Oh, we're going to simply refresh, technology. We talk about frequencies and here we are, technology refresh itself. Isn't that fascinating? So I love the fact that we have someone who has so much experience hands on and honor experiencers. That means that yourself, everyone who's listening right now and will be listening, honor your own experiences, even though others may say it's valid and non valid based on trade or capacity to understand your own experience. It is true and valid to you. So honor your space. Don't you think that's fascinating, Jeff?
Yeah, I mean it's all about. Yeah, we always talk about um, the frequencies and harmonization and resonance. When you get to that point where you got their frequency and everything else, and you're vibrating correctly, it's when the resonance happens, and then the exchange of information happens. That is what Sarah actually spelled out for me, specific detail about that, about when the information is ready to be flowed, you have to be harmonizing at that point.
That is very true. And as we're allowing our guest Gwen will come back, she just had a little technical glitch here. She'll be right back in a moment. Jeff, you're making a really important point, and my Octurian delegation is the same thing. they have to constantly harmonize that frequency. In fact, many people who have gone on board ships interacting with advanced, intelligent, and spiritually oriented intergalactic groups have reported to either take a liquid or something kind of downloads to readjust their field so they can be in the same frequency level. Can you imagine interacting with a being that is six-dimensional frequencies and you hear you're on the third density? There needs to be a bridge to be
Yeah,
able to, yeah.
You can vibrate yourself, and that's fine. And you got their frequency tuned in, but only when you're in the resonance realm is when information can be passed.
That is very true. Yeah, and
Yeah,
I
I'm
do
get my
experience.
second paper almost complete right now. So
Second paper on
the Ponte, I mean, they go into specific detail on how everything happens.
interesting. You care to share a little bit about it? Just some snippets of it?
It's pretty much what Sarah says. It's pretty much like a when you dial in a radio station. Okay, I mean you get the FM band. Okay, that's your vibration. Then you can dial to your favorite station. Okay, and that's the that's close to Renaissance, right? And then when you find your station, you said that's the song I want to hear, and you crank it up. That's when the Renaissance is.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And it's true. And also I want to bring not only honoring your personal experience very important because it is your experience. Sometimes people ask me during sessions, but Vivian, I saw this ship or I saw this being. What does it mean? I always says, what does it mean to you? What was the importance or the message or the intention behind this encounter? Ask, reveal yourself to me. Help me understand who you are. What is the message? And listen to yourself. This way, it gets you into a space of empowerment. Now, I want to mention one more thing, Jeff, on that one empowerment. I will also invite everyone to be mindful of what you read out there, whether it's from council federations and who's bad, who's not. And I just want to be mentioning be discerning about what you read, whatever source, whichever source you read online, whoever that is, be discerning because right now there's what I call is the buffet aspect. There's so much bubbling up to the surface because we're shifting into a new reality. But at the same time, we get caught up into
Mhm.
that swirl of information, and you know, A will say that, B said that, C say something another statement, and D will bring another statement. So let's be mindful. Bring yourself back to your core, allow yourself. And for the record, and there are no fallen Arcturians, please let's drop that topic. So I have to block someone in the chat room right now because of that negativity. Let's stay in the light, everyone. It's all about the light returning back to itself. That's what it's really about. So let me check on our guest, making sure that she's able to join us again. I'm sure it's just a matter of technical. Up. I see you're coming back. Yes, there we go. Gwen, we were just holding sacred space while you were coming back.
Thank you. I apologize. My computer just went black.
That happens. That happens when we start talking about these things. There's nothing we can do about it.
Yeah. So, well, thank you for waiting.
Of course, we were simply continuing the conversation based on what you shared. Both
Okay.
Jeff and I shared some wisdom from our intergalactic groups. There was some
Good.
interaction in the chat room, so we were there for you. It's just a continuous form.
Well, thank you.
Of course, of course. Um, well, since we're back and we're going to continue diving into your incredible experience, I'm quite personally curious to learn a little bit more with your experience. You said that you were also a CE5 researcher. You've done your work with hundreds of individuals who have had direct experience. What is the difference doing that kind of work versus the therapist part?
Well, I consider the CE5 work to be, that is the human initiated contact with extraterrestrials. And that I consider to be more of an investigative, but it is also experiential. But I've always considered the CE5 to be for my own personal experience. And also then I can teach a little and talk to people about it. But it's quite different than from being a therapist and, sitting with clients and listening to their stories and helping them to deal with any issues that they might have, or writing or teaching or something like that. Yeah.
Beautiful. I can feel a difference already. For those who may not be familiar, what is CE5? What is that?
Okay, CE5 is considered to be human initiated contact with extraterrestrials. And many years ago, a system of contact was created by a couple of researchers. It was CE1, CE2, CE3, CE4, CE5, CE6, and CE7. And some people have added more to that. And the purpose of that was for researchers, so that when you're recording the experiences that people are telling you about, you use that as a code. So CE1 might be, I saw something in the sky. No contact, just I saw something. CE2 would be, I saw an identifiable craft. CE3 would be, I saw a craft with beings on it. And then it will go on in the closeness of contact from there. So this is something that researchers use. Now, in the past few years, some people have begun to do groups, which are called CE5 groups. And a system of contact of protocols was created that is, as I said, human initiated. There are many CE5 groups across the country and across the world. There are some specific people who do it and teach it. If you want to go to a retreat or something and work with people. But there are a lot of people just around in the cities who do it, who go out in their backyard and do this kind of work, or go out in the desert or out, somewhere and do the work. So basically that's what it is. The CE5 is human initiated contact in the CE5 protocol. Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely. I love that. And I'm very grateful, Gwen, that you break it down, because many people are familiar with other protocol, whether it's Dr. Stephen Greer or other form of protocol. So we want just to establish like a foundational understanding of, and coming from you, it was so clear. I appreciate that a lot. Thank you very much. Um, you're also part of the Academy of Clinical Close Encounter Therapists, huh? Are you
Yes.
still involved with this academy?
I am not, because the academy closed a few years ago. I was on the board of directors and a writer for it, but it had been around for over 25 years. And it was just, we felt like it was a point of, we have to spend a lot of money to upgrade everything. And we were just membership. We went on membership, monies. And so we just decided then to close it down and put all of our archives together. And I have those archives. So no, that organization is not around anymore. But many of those people, although they tend to be a bit older, are still working in this field as therapists or researchers.
Lovely. That is fantastic to hear, because everyone expertise is so valuable regardless of
Absolutely.
the label of age. So I'm thrilled to hear. And also listening to your experience as a therapist with direct contactees and experiencers, it is wonderful to know that it's from all generations. There's not just some categories only, but it's really much all level. And just to tell you that it's never too late to awaken. It's never too late to understand who you are. I always said this is an invitation to awaken. So you illustrate that very well, Gwen. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about your book. I'm excited. Huh? Forbidden Question, A Guide to Human ET Contact. I'm going to show
Are you going to
on
show
the
it?
screen.
Or I can.
Yes, go ahead, please. Yay, perfect. It is available on Amazon, correct?
Yes, it is. It is in paperback on Amazon, or you can get it on Kindle as well. Right.
Perfect. Can you tell us about your book?
Sure. I call it forbidden questions because of all of the people I have known over the years who were forbidden to talk about their experiences. These are people who cannot talk to their family. They cannot talk to their priest. They cannot talk to even some friends. They can't talk to anyone. And they are people who find their ways to people like me or people like you who are working in this field. And so the book is a mini encyclopedia of every type of human ET contact phenomenon, or also interdimensionals, not just extraterrestrials. So I wrote it as a little mini encyclopedia, and it has about 38 chapters, plus an appendix, and every one of them is about a different kind of experience that people have had. There are some personal experiences of people in here, but the book is less about stories and more about the phenomenon. So for people who are field investigators, a lot of people use this book when they're working, when they're investigating for someone, and they need that their person, the person who is cited or the witness needs a little help to understand. They find that it's a good one to give there. It's a good one for people who just have an interest, but they're not really sure that they're into it. And so that's why I created it. And like I said, it has a lot of things in it that you don't necessarily find other places, because they're kind of some of more of the obscure parts that people don't tend to talk about, but they are real and people are really experiencing them.
I love it. So I show the title on the screen, and I will put the name in the chat room for everybody to find it.
Thank you.
I remember seeing your book at the International UFO Congress, and I remember our conversation, and there's something about it that really caught my attention. The proof is that we're having this discussion today, now live on the podcast. So you see, you never know who you meet in life. That's incredible. Well, I'm going to post that right away for everybody asking me. Here's it is, everybody. It's in the chat room, and you are very much welcome to go on Amazon, paperback or Kindle version.
Yes.
Definitely encourage you to go and get the book from Gwen. Really much a mind goal of resources. Um, you mentioned something also important from the book, and I love that. You mentioned a distinction between extraterrestrial and interdimensional contact. Can
Yes.
you give us a little bit on understanding what would be the difference based on your experience as a therapist?
What we would consider in the field of research and also in therapy is that an extraterrestrial being would be any kind of a being that is from another planet. Okay, that's what extraterrestrial, just someone who's from another planet, somewhere out in the solar system or elsewhere out in the galaxy. Interdimensional could come in from any other place. That's a very broad term. We use that to also cover paranormal experiences, such as ghostly experiences and other things that we talked about, like orbs. But any kind of paranormal experience, we also consider that interdimensional, because we believe that can come in from the spirit realm, which is kind of broadly included in that interdimensional area, or can come in from many, many other dimensions, time dimensions, and things like that. So that's much more broad. Extraterrestrial or ET is not as commonly used anymore as it used to be, because we now realize there's a lot more than that. In the early days, we used to keep it separated, UFOs over here and paranormal over here. But now we realize it's all consciousness, and it's all coming from one giant place or consciousness. And we do use those terms now.
Absolutely. It really is. It's consciousness expressed in different expression, like a multitude of a branch of a tree. Absolutely. That's a really powerful point. Thank you, Gwen. Jeff, you have a question for our guest today?
Oh man, I can pepper her with all types of questions, just how
Go
much.
ahead, my friend. This is what we're here for.
Okay, your contact group, Gwen, do they have a name?
Yes, I actually run two contact groups, one for the group OPUS, which is the Organization for Paranormal Understanding and Support. But that is a closed group. That is a membership group. And then the other one, I have a group that I've run for about 4 years now on my own, and that is called the ET Contact Experiencer Support Group.
Okay,
And
and people come from all over, I would assume, right? It isn't just
yes,
the Phoenix area, right?
that's right. They can come, they contact me, and they need to contact me if they're interested through my email, which I'm happy to give you if you want to do that. And then they can be admitted to the group from there. It's really not a closed group, but I like to keep just to sort of know who's coming in the group and who's going out, because when you get really close to these people, and if someone drops away for a while, then I get worried and I want to kind of check on them and see if they're okay. So, but anybody basically can come in and out. It doesn't even actually have to be an experiencer, as long as it is someone who is seriously interested and respectful. Many people learn from going to groups. That's one of the major reasons that people go to support groups, is they listen and learn. Some people never share. They just listen and learn. So,
have you ever had any suspicions that one of your clients could be an ET?
yes, I have. I have had many clients who have come to me and told me that they are hybrids, human alien or human ET hybrids. And then I also have had a few who have come to me who have said that they are extraterrestrial. When someone comes to me, since I'm not an investigator any longer,
Right.
I'm a therapist. I help whoever comes to me to try to accomplish whatever they want. So yes, I've had people who've come to me and shared some very unique things. And yeah, I have.
You happen to write it down?
Yes, I do, but I don't share it. It's all confidential. My records are confidential, and if I ever pass on and I go into the next life, they get burned or they get shredded. Yeah, I just can't ethically. I don't share.
Of course, of course. I know my wonderful co-host has a sense
Just
of
trying to get
humor.
around some stuff, She got me.
Yeah, yeah, we got you absolutely. Gwen, I want to make sure people can reach out to you if they choose to be part of those group. The email address I have for you is etherapist.gf@gmail.com.
That will work.
That will
Yes.
work? Okay, I'm going to show it on the screen. So just to acknowledge your group here, I want to show everybody this is Gwen's email address. If you are interested to be part of the ET Contact Experiencers support group, please contact Gwen directly at the email that you can see on the screen right now. And of course, maybe some private session or regression as you need. This is definitely Gwen will be able to assist you. So I'm showing you your email right now so people can
Thank
connect
you.
with you.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, definitely.
Yes.
We're always happy to support our guests. This is what we do.
So I do want to mention that about a year ago, I retired from my private practice. I do not do that anymore. I
Oh,
still do some consulting, and I'm still willing to chat with people if they have kind of general questions. I usually will refer them to other therapists because I have a network of qualified and approved therapists and groups that I can share.
well, congratulations of moving on to other project. And after all this many, many years of services, it is also really well earned. Glad to know that you still provide some assistance and there's a network that is available since, and plus your book, of course, on Amazon. So that's wonderful.
Good.
I am personally very curious without, of course, talking about confidential information, which I respect as I do the same thing with my client, 100%. I'm just curious to see, have you experienced differences when someone come to you and says, look, I'm a hybrid. This is my background. This is either family, mother, human, or father, ET. What can you tell us about your experience around the hybrids ones?
What I have learned over the past few years is that, first of all, there are various types of hybridization programs. I usually call them hybridizing programs, but they're the same thing. There are common ones, and I have a program that I do on that. There are the common type of hybridizing where a woman may be abducted, and then we'll have her eggs removed and the ova removed, maybe mixed with alien, some kind of alien genetic material, DNA, RNA, other things. And then the child may be placed back into her womb. She is put back in her life. And then she may be taken back aboard the ship or the location in a certain number of months to remove the fetus. That's probably the most commonly known one. There are also men will sometimes be taken as well to have sperm removed. Sometimes humans are brought on the ship, male and female. They are forced to have sexual relations, which may cause a baby to be implanted in the womb. That then can be used that directly right there in utero. DNA can be mixed, or other kinds of genetic material from the aliens can be mixed. And then typically the people are released. The woman is then brought back at a later date when they decide that they want to take the fetus from her. Many, many women report that they have been the mothers of alien hybrids, and they have had them removed. So that's probably the most commonly known one. However, there are other ones. There's another one where there's actually a soul connection or spirit realm connection. There are certain very highly developed alien beings or otherworldly beings. Not all of them are able to do this, but some of them are very highly advanced. They have the ability to join with a human spirit in the womb. So a fetus begins from a human mother and a human father, and then at a certain point there is an agreement made with the spirit realm, with the parents also, that this is okay to do this. And then those beings are able to introduce they take the spirit from the spirit realm, and they are able to introduce physically somehow their genetic material to that. Like I said, we don't believe that all races are able to do this. It has to be the ones that are very highly advanced. And those are probably fewer than the others. Probably not the gray races. We don't believe they can do it. We don't believe that the reptoids or reptilians can do it. Doesn't mean they're bad. It just means that they're just not at that level where they can do that kind of, that's really tricky, very, very special kind of hybridization technique. And it's not as common. This is what we often call a starseed type of hybridizing. It's not exactly the same thing as a starseed, but that is an actual spiritual connection that you have in a physical body. And there are others too that people talk about having done on them, but those are probably the two most common that I hear.
Yeah, and that pretty much resonates with what I understand that to be too.
Mm-hmm.
Now, from the ET's point of view, that is like, you should feel honored that we're doing this because you are helping perpetuate the human. But from our point of view, it is a violation, and that's the understanding that has to be understood between these.
Yes. There are many reasons why alien races hybridize and use human bodies and human genetic material to hybridize. And one of them is that we think they are trying to somehow advance humans now for who knows what reasons. And many are just because they want to expand their own races as well. And so they are using a human body for that. One of the things that is important about the spiritual hybridizing program that I talked about, as opposed to the physical hybridizing program, is that the spiritual program, we believe, is done with the consent of everyone. The spirit realm is always on top. They are the most powerful one when it comes to humans. And they will say yes or no. If they are willing to take a human spirit and contribute it to this. They work with these specific ET races, and they know the races, and they know which ones can be trusted. And so the spirit realm has to say yes. The ETs have to say yes. And the parents, the individual human parents, if there are parents who are in the, in the life, if there's a father and a mother who are in the life of the baby, they have to say yes as well. Otherwise, this doesn't happen. So
Yes,
nobody.
it is the individual's oversoul that gives permission for that
Mhm.
person in this timeline to be affected by any outside source. It
Yes.
doesn't affect all the timelines of the person, just this only one here.
So
Is
yeah,
my understanding for that.
but you were right. It is in the physical type of hybridizing programs, it's less likely to be consensual. It's
Mhm.
more likely to be an abduction experience and to
Right.
be forced on someone. And we do believe it because we've had so many experiencers who tell us that they see hybrid creatures aboard craft or
Mhm.
in other locations, that many of these creatures who are created through this physical way don't survive. They're not healthy. They don't really make it. Some of them do, but many of them don't. So it's, we don't really know. We don't understand everything, but that's what we understand.
I was told that the reason why they choose the Earth human is because the Earth human template has a unique attitude of adapting to any environment and surviving. So they need that for other areas of the universe.
And that is completely possible. Yeah, that's one of the theories that we have. Some people tell us that also. So we, like I said, it's just different things and how people report them and how they deal with them. But that is highly possible. Sure.
Yeah, this is actually a very old type. This Earth human template is used throughout this area of the universe for many different times.
It certainly could be. Yeah.
It's all really good points, and of course, there are other layers to the word hybrid. If you look at human beings as a civilization having so many cosmic, galactic mix of genetic pool within ourselves, this is why we look at human beings as galactic royalties, in a sense. But that's we have to look at this as from an entire civilization perspective. So it's a whole different reality. And of course, in my case, I'm a unique prototype because it is done through the consent for generations of soul involved in this project, not just my immediate human family, human parents, but also my grandparents and the grandparents as well were involved in this. So it's a whole generational timeline of soul agreements, partnership, working together to bring me in that space. So this is when I always curious about our hybrid because I know I'm a category of my own, so to speak,
Yes.
and, and I honor that at the same time. But from the perspective of what you've learned so much from all of the regressions and the people you help, Gwen, is it not to say that ultimately abduction or non-abduction and all of these labels we put, is it not ultimately all soul agreements to some degree?
I'm sorry. Can you repeat the question? I lost your sound there for a moment.
Of course. So you talk about, some of the spiritual realm, it has to be in
Yes.
agreement with everyone, those
Mhm.
who are go to abduction and physical. But in a much bigger picture, if you look at a more divine design behind all of it, can we not say that ultimately it's all soul agreements for one way or another?
You could look at that way, absolutely. We as human beings are most of us are so restricted by this 3D reality that we live in and a physical body that we have that prevents us from remembering things, prevents us from thinking about things, and often, I believe, prevents us from actually having experiences that we don't really understand that. But if you look at human beings as high conscious beings. And if you look at many of the ET races that communicate with us as also being high conscious beings, then that means that there is a level somewhere, and there is something, whatever consciousness is. If it's a big realm somewhere, if it's all God, if it's a giant house with a bunch of different rooms, and it's possible for each of us to go to a different room and have a different experience. We don't know that, but yeah, we do believe there's definitely something overarching here, and I would love to know what it is. We don't know it yet, but I hope someday to be able to understand that.
Thank you, Gwen. You have any more questions, Jeff?
Yeah, real quick. I was wondering if in all your interviews, experiences, whatever, that the understanding of the 3D realm is such that since that the ETs are obviously higher, that they actually are desire to come down to this realm to experience the feeling of love, anger, pain, all that stuff. Have you ever heard that theory before?
Yes, absolutely. And that's one of the strongest, probably one of the most accepted theories among researchers, is that especially when people talk about coming in with a pre-life agreement, they have a reason for being here. And so some of them are with the races who perhaps, some of them who can't procreate on their own for various reasons. Maybe they're AI, or maybe over the years of doing different technology on their races, they have lost the ability to procreate. So we believe that some are coming down here and they're using a physical body from humans and sperm and genetic material and ova to actually create a hybrid that they can take back and work with or study, and perhaps they can breed them in some way there. We also do believe, and I believe this is something that I've heard many starseeds talk about, is that they have come down here to learn and to report back to their star families who want to know what life is like in 3D reality on the earth right now.
Correct. Exactly.
That's why they are here. And they do report back, many of them do, in various ways, in various connections and contact that they have with them. So yeah, I would say, sure, they definitely could be using a vehicle, a human vehicle, or a physical body to bring a consciousness into that then can transmit information back to them.
Yes, exactly. And vice versa. There's many souls who remember, who are now earth human beings, remember having experiences or incarnations or past life on the planet where they were may not be not humanoid, or they may be just a humanoid race, or they were felines, or they were mer people. And then in this lifetime, they come and bring that knowledge back to them at a soul level, to their soul ancestry. And you can tell it's going to be a lot of, different traits and guidance and things inside of them that really brings them in a level. So I found that the mirror is reflective on both sides, as above, so below. If you think of the level of diversity of life on this planet, it's reflecting also in the multiverse. So that's another good point, Gwen.
Yes. I agree.
Wonderful. Thank you, Gwen. With all of the people, everybody you work with, what you've learned, extracted, and everything, what would be some point of wisdom that you may want to share with everybody to give everybody validations, especially with all the changes, the awakening consciousness going on? What would be some point of wisdom you have extracted from all of your session with experiencers?
I guess what I would say is that there are many people who are experiencers and don't want to be. And there are many people who are not experiencers and want to be and would love to be. So what I believe is, I personally believe that we have paths. We may not know them. Probably most of us don't. In this life, we have a path to follow. And if it involves you being an experiencer or a hybrid, or not, or having no experience at all, never seeing a light in the sky, that's okay. Because you are a human with a soul and a functional brain. If hopefully you're healthy, but you have a brain that works and you have a body that works. And what's more important is for you to have a good life, to be a good person, to learn what you can, to try to help others when you can. And I know that sounds really corny and people are going like, yeah, I don't want to hear that. But the truth is, if you study any of the great teachers, any of the philosophers, or if you talk to ETs or you talk to experiencers, that's the teaching it always comes down to. So if you are an experiencer and you're okay with it and you're happy with it, wonderful. If you're not and you want to know more or you're having a little trouble, reach out for help. There are people out there who can help, groups and individuals who can help you with that. But I just believe that we are all blessed. We're all here for different reasons, whether we know them or not. And we should make the best of what we have and the best of who we are and try to just be positive.
That is very true.
I like that.
Everybody listen to that again. Go back to the recordings and go back to that portion and listen to that again. Trust. He always says, my Arcturus negation always says, walk in the certainty of your light, which is our own ways of describing what you just said. And you're absolutely correct, Gwen, because in all the communality within the enlightened, spiritually oriented, intergalactic civilization, there's this common message: stay in your light, live to your heart, learn your lessons from a place of love and compassion, and walking the path of mastery. So it's all tied up in what you just said. So I want to give you acknowledgement for that. This is amazing. Right, Jeff? All right, you have any more questions, my friend?
Not. Just keep on going, man. I mean, every time you ask, I got like 4 or 5 more. So,
well, go ahead. We have time, and our wonderful Gwen is right here. So go ahead.
Anything else?
Anything else, man? Yeah.
Anything else that I can answer? I don't promise that I know it all, but I will do what I can.
It's all good.
Let's see here. Jeez. Got me on a loop here. Come on, Vivian, help me out here. Let's
okay.
I mean,
I will help you. I'll let you get out of your loop. Let's move forward. I have your bio, so I'm kind of a beautiful support here. I mean, we're looking at. You've been also doing groups and workshop at conferences, haven't you?
Yes.
Gwen?
Yes. I did a workshop at the International UFO Congress last year.
That's right.
I did all of the support groups, which was about 8 groups, all 3 days. And then I also did a workshop on Monday. And the workshop that I did, workshops, I'm sure you've all been to conferences, so you kind of know how they work. But workshops tend to be different from speakers because in workshops, you do something. The workshops are for people to participate with. So there's a talk and then there's a participation. And what I always want and enjoy talking with people about is therapy, especially hypnosis, hypnotherapy, and regression therapy, because there is so much misunderstanding about that. And one of the things I have always said, even though I've regressed many, many people, is it doesn't work for everyone and it's not right for everyone. Figure out if it's right for you. I even have a chapter in my book, Should I Get Therapy? So one of what the workshop I wanted to do was a workshop with a talk and a demonstration on regression therapy. And it was really fun. We had about 40 people in the group, and I did a little PowerPoint presentation, talked about what it is, what it's not, and what it's like. And then I just led a very simple, easy, comfortable regression session for everyone. And people really enjoyed it. It was so relaxing. I think I had one person who fell asleep. But if you've done good sessions before, it's really easy to relax and fall asleep. But yeah, so that's one thing that was the workshop that I did.
Have you experienced anybody sharing a conscience with an ET?
Conscience.
Yes,
conscience.
Like conscious, like they are talking to you, guiding you through, educating you to do something.
Yes, absolutely.
Not physically in front of you, but just like from maybe a distance away.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially with people who they have a pre-life agreement type thing, or they have a path that they're working. When they know that many people know that they're working with specific star families or specific races. But yeah, sure. There's some communication. There is, like I mentioned before, sometimes people have a big life change when they have a contact. And from then on, they will feel that they have a connection with that. Now, when you're talking about someone having a forceful relationship, so that a being from the outside is forcing a person to do something, that is not good. That is never going to be good. There are many different names for that, but that is not a good thing. And if someone feels like they're being talked to all the time, they constantly have a voice in their head that is trying to push them to do things that they're uncomfortable with or they feel are wrong, and that happens too sometimes, that's when a person needs to look for a doctor or a therapist to kind of go through that with them and help them work through that. So yeah, that people do have those relationships.
Okay. Yeah. Interesting.
That's a good point. So being discerning and stay in your power, it's very important to understand who you're interacting with and what is the purpose of it.
Mhm.
Absolutely. I have a question for you. And again, part of your experience as a therapist, have you ever encountered a situation of walk-ins?
Walk-ins.
A
Yes.
walk-in.
Yes,
Mhm.
I have had very few relationships with walk-ins in my therapy and in my practice, but I have written about it and I've done programs on walk-ins. So yes, I do. Did you have questions about that, or?
Yes, actually. See, you saw me coming here. I like that, Gwen. Thank you. So I
Mhm.
was just want to make sure first that you have an experience with it. And so, in your experience of interacting with a walking situation, what is the difference versus somebody who had, memory to be on board a ship or connecting with a being?
Mhm.
What is the difference here for you in your
Well,
experience?
there are many different. Walk-in is a term that's used by in a lot of different with a lot of different meanings. The walk-ins that I know that I've studied and the couple that I've had as my clients have been more what I would call a traditional walk-in, and the difference is extremely different. First of all, a walk-in situation that, as I understand it, is a spirit swap or a spirit exchange. It is a spiritual experience. Okay. It is not someone whose body is being taken at night and they're put on a ship or they're being hybridized or something like that. And the spiritual walk-in, of course, it does involve the spirit realm because that's what it's about. It involves an agreement, a pre-life, and an agreement during the life that happens. It's very complicated. And I don't think there are a whole lot of real walk-ins out there. I think that there are people who have maybe influence or they speak with ETs or they speak with spirits, and they may use the term walk-in. But typically a walk-in, as I know it, is a very unique and difficult thing to make happen. Yeah. But and another thing about it is the difference between someone who's talking to an ET and a walk-in is a walk-in involves a complete, utter change in life. When the walk-in happens, the person becomes somebody else. They are physically the same being, but that is part of the agreement because a higher soul, an old soul, or an advanced spirit or soul comes in. The soul that's in the physical body goes back out to the spirit realm. There are reasons why that's done. There's an agreement that it's done, that there's always a major shift in the person's personality, their lifestyle, the things they do, the things they like. So it's pretty easy, I think, to tell the difference, if you work with people, between somebody who's been walked in and somebody who's had another kind of experience.
How long does a walk-in person last?
Typically, walk-ins last from then to the end of the person's lifetime. However, if you look at it, you do some research on it, you find out that there are different kinds of things, different kinds of walk-ins or like pseudo walk-ins, where a spirit can come in just for a short amount of time. Upper level or high soul advanced beings can come in to help a person through an experience. And that would be more like just a connection, a spiritual connection with them. So not much not as much like walk-ins. So typically once you get a walk-in, that's it, because you have agreed in a previous life that you're going to come to this life. You know it's not going to be good. You know it's going to be hard. You know you're going to suffer, but you want to do it. But you make an agreement that you're only going to do it for a while, and then you want to be released, the spirit to be released. And so once you get it in, usually you're there till the whole end. And usually children are not involved. It's typically people who are older, although there are some, it is possible, we believe, to do a walk-in with a child. Did that answer your question?
Yeah,
Beautifully.
yeah, and also I'm under the impression too that some walk-ins will be visited by the host ET to help them live a little longer or fix them up because of this 3D environment is so heavy, that they're not used to that. So
Yeah, absolutely. We do believe that that when you have a connection with a star family or a particular race, they do look out for you.
yeah, I know somebody that has that happen to them.
They do look out for you. I would not necessarily call that experience a walk-in, a traditional walk-in, but it doesn't matter what you call it. It is that kind of experience, and they will, and they do tend to look after their people. Otherwise, why would they put you here? What they do is not easy. It's not easy to get.
Oh, they must have
Yeah.
drawn the lucky 3D card or something.
Yeah, I mean, it's not an easy thing for these beings to do, and so they're not going to do it unless they think it's going to work. Sometimes it doesn't work, and that's unfortunate, and the person is lost. But they're here for a reason. And so, yes, they will look after their people.
Yeah, I mean, they're here for a clear cut. They know exactly what they have to do, and
Absolutely.
they take care of it.
They do.
Very true. Yeah, they will look, and even the star seed who are in connection with their star families, they look after each other. That's a support system. No one is just dropped on the planet as a form of punishment. It says good luck and see you at the end. We all have support system. So speaking of walk-ins, and I love the way you bring it about and clarifying that word. Can it be also considered as a soul swamp?
Oh, yes. They're often called soul swaps, soul switches, soul braids. They're sometimes called as well. They're essentially the same thing we think in the way that we think of them. Yes.
Very good, very good. That's why I just want to clarify because there was a question in the chat room. And I personally witnessed many, many years ago, I witnessed someone who had the end of her journey, the soul was done, and it was a walk-in situation. I was part of a spiritual group called Out of the Box, and one gentleman who we knew interacting every week with left for a while, and when we came back from the group, he was a complete different person. And other people who were very, very close to him as a close friend was part of the journey, also understood what's going on. And it's a walk-in who came in and took it over and still living to this day that life because that was
That
the
was
exchange
what
point,
they
and I
agreed.
witnessed it firsthand. So you are correct, Gwen, saying that a walk-in situation, a real walk-in in the sense of the definition, it's very rare and it's done with very specific agreements and energy purposes. So, sometimes I don't know if you heard that maybe in your practice, but sometimes I hear, spouse who lost maybe one the partner or the wife or the husband, and they think that the wife or the husband will come back to them in a walk-in. It doesn't work that way. It's more complex than that, I would say.
Yeah, it's a lot more complex that way. And I wouldn't say that it couldn't. But if you're waiting for that to happen and you're counting on it, I wouldn't. Because usually we're talking about a soul level, and our spirits, our oversouls, these beings do love human beings and they are supporting us. But this is a pretty complex environment that we live in. And these kinds of things, as you both mentioned before, is a pretty complicated process. So,
Indeed.
yeah.
Indeed. Thank you for your knowledge. Thank you for expertise. This is very important to be able to bring the real knowledge back in the proper context instead of filling our minds with so much information or disinformation that is out there, to bring yourself back to the essential of true knowledge and first-hand experience. And we're learning so much with you, Gwen. Very happy. I know you mentioned earlier that in your practice, you're working with more people from 18 on, more younger adults, and
Yeah.
then from all ages. But for
Mhm.
those who come to you, who may be parents of star children, like starseed, indigo, crystal children, all of this, do
Mhm.
they talk about that part of their lives? Is that something that you've also experienced to a certain degree?
Yes, I have when I was in my private practice more. In the groups, people who come in tend to be actually themselves. They're there for their own experiences. But sure, I've talked to many parents who are concerned about their children. And it is, of course, something that's very important. And it's a very important thing to them. I find that I was never a family therapist. So that's a licensed family therapist is a different thing from what I was. But I find that parents find themselves in a situation and they're concerned, they might consult a licensed family therapist to talk about, explain what they're feeling, and they might want to go just the husband and the wife, or the mother and the father, or the two parents together, or the two partners together, alone first, and explain what they feel is happening, and then the therapist will probably want to speak with the child at some point too. But of course, but many times these parents are I don't like to say anyone is more evolved than anyone else, but many of these parents are farther along the path to start with. So they have a child, they got that child because that's where the child belonged. Now that doesn't mean that there aren't bad parents out there who have advanced children, star children and crystal children and things like that. But many of them that I've talked to, I chat with them and they're like, I can tell that they already know what they need to know. They love their child, and that's always the most important thing. And they're doing the best to provide a home with them for them.
Real quick, did anybody that you ever interviewed say stuff like I was visited and then they took stuff from me? Did the ETs ever take anything?
Took like physical things from
Yeah.
them. Oh, sure. People, especially in abductions, many people who've been in a typical abduction scenario talk about having body parts removed from them. It's not like an organ,
No,
but
no, no. But
people.
like a sock or
Oh, you mean a physical thing
yeah,
from their environment?
yeah.
Um, People do talk about things that have gone missing. But I would have to say that that's more rare for the people that I have worked with. If there is anything missing, it would be something from their physical body, like a piece of skin, or hair, or something that they can identify that was taken. But I I did have a client many years ago when I first started, who talked about something like that, and something disappeared from his home, and then a long time later, he stopped believing. He stopped this. He was a child experiencer, and he had an item in his home that he had gotten when he was a child, and he had kept it on a bookshelf or something like that. So over the years, he completely stopped thinking about anything, gave it all up, didn't do anything, and then he ended up moving and pack things away and everything, and nothing ever happened about it for years. But then he did find it, and when he got back into it again, he had a contact experience, which he believed in, and like on his kitchen cabinet the next morning it was there.
Yeah. Yeah.
And people talk about having things moved around their houses. People who have
Yeah.
contact with extraterrestrials a lot, they talk about things being picked up and moved somewhere else. So yeah.
Well, I can tell you an experience I had last night. Want to hear it?
Sure.
Okay. Well, of course, we have a puppy, and the puppy is in the kitchen inside of a crate, the other side of the house, right? So we're in our bedroom. We have the door closed. And of course, my small dog is on the bed with us, and my wife's next to me. And I'm sleeping on my side. And I've been using this back scratcher just quick, you put it back on my nightstand, right?
Mhm.
No big thing. Well, it was about 2 o'clock because I have my phone and my Alexa's close by, so when I open my eyes, I can see the time, right?
Mhm.
Well, I'm sleeping on my side, and I just got up because I just had this feeling that I got to get up because somebody's here, and I see this faint image, standing next to me. They picked up my um, back scratcher, and I'm looking at him very calmly, and I said, "At least you can get me a glass of water, because I'm thirsty." And then they dropped it, and then they were gone right away.
Hmm.
I must have scared them. It's who we call the Ponte, okay, which is my star family. And
Okay.
they visit me all the time. I got pictures and videos of them.
Mhm.
And but this one I must have scared. But he dropped my damn back scratcher right on top of the nightstand. I think they were just curious about it.
Mhm.
So
Yeah. Yes, they very well could be. And the fact that you are aware of this being and you have a relationship with the being makes a really big difference too. There's no fear for you there,
no, no,
and that also we believe has an effect on the way that the beings behave and the things that they do. So
yeah, yeah,
I'm
yeah. Because they took
yeah.
my socks, they took my wedding ring. I have missing items, and I'm a pretty neat guy, so I know where things are, and just
Mhm.
so I just wanted to see if anybody else out there has the same thing besides me, because I'm sure I'm going to go and see these guys, and they're going to say, "That's my
Yeah,
sock you're wearing."
yeah, absolutely. I don't know of anybody who's told me they had a back scratcher taken, but
And they were just wanting to say,
definitely,
"What is he using this for?"
yeah, definitely.
So yeah,
Well, Gwen, on a side note, just so you know, because I'm very familiar, obviously, with Jeff and his wonderful group, his intergalactic groups are really, let's just say, very involved with them as he's one of them anyway, as a
Mhm.
starseed. They're very protective of him and they're very playful. From time to time, they also come to my house and I can hear little footstep on the carpet, so to speak, and some crystal just change position.
Mhm.
My intergalactic group were like eternal think of them as master zen. They have no interest in the object in my house, so it's a complete different experience in my case. But when we
Mhm.
come together, it is wonderful to see uh, the distinction of polarity of interaction. So I hear that all the time. So just to give you a bit side story, that's
Yeah.
normal in Jeff's house.
yeah. I mean, it's normal. I mean, I see them like little wisps, and
Mm.
it is no big thing. It is. Sometimes I get in front of the TV. I'm like, "You guys, I'm watching TV here. What are you doing? I can see you, right?" And they go away. You know.
So we just have a few minutes left. Our time together went in a time warp, as always. We've learned so much. People absolutely love. I just want to give you some credit, Gwen, as well. The audience, and thank you everyone who's always with us every time. You're so involved. Love your comments. People learn. They were appreciative of you. Just a few words of wisdom from your own personal learning for all these years of working with experiencers, being on the field, your own interactions.
Mhm.
What would be just a few words of wisdom for what you've learned personally?
I guess I would go kind of with just kind of expanding on some of the things that we've already talked about today. And that is that life on this earth is most of the time not easy. If you have a some spiritual being or spiritual faith or spiritual path or a psychic connection with someone that helps you through, that's always positive and is not fearful, then I suggest that you take advantage of that however you want to. If you want to meditate with them, if you want to talk to them before you go to bed at night, if you want to put flowers in your house for them, or whatever that connection is, that is so important. Even even if even it doesn't always have anything to do with woo woo, which is psychic or spiritual or anything. It's so important for the human brain, the human spirit, to have that spiritual connection with something, even if it's a pet or it's flowers in your garden or if it's hiking or whatever. There's something you really like and it makes you feel good, do it. And when you need something to rely on that. I also have used my whole life, and I strongly believe in using sayings or mantras or things that help you feel better, things that help you to start the day, a little prayer. Or something that you can do when you begin the day to prepare you before you go to sleep at night. Something that makes you feel comfortable, something that makes you feel positive. Again, a lot of people think, oh, that is just so,
No, because you set the intention.
You're setting your attention, you're setting your protection, you're bringing your guides or your spirits into you and opening up. And I mean, that's just good psychological health as a therapist. And so I would say, find what you love, something that you feel is supportive, and hold on to it. Do that. That's going to stand you through a lot of problems.
Lovely, absolutely. And listen to your heart, follow your passion to your heart. Absolutely wonderfully said. Gwen, we are so grateful for your time. Thank you for accepting our invitation. We went through a wonderful journey together. And for everyone tuning in, for June, we have two amazing episodes coming up. First, we have a special on Sunday, June 4th, where Jeff and I will be together physically at a contact in the desert in Indian Wells, California. We're going to do a
I will see
special.
you there. I will
Yay,
be there.
when they come say hello, we'll do a special live coverage, Jeff and I together at a contact in the desert on Sunday, June 4th. Same
Okay.
time, everyone, 11 a.m. Pacific, which is 2 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. And then the following Sunday, June 11, we have the amazing Jamie Price with us. She
Oh,
is talking light language,
yes.
Lyran Console, connection with the Lyran. We're going to work with those beautiful master of the Lyra constellation. So June 4th and June 11th, stay tuned. But for now, Gwen, we are very grateful for you. Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you. Thank you. Take care, everybody.
Take care.
Thanks,
We'll see
Gwen.
you next time, everyone. Namaste.
Okay.